Alright, what's going on, everybody? I'm back in the same shirt, same day as the first video. Gonna try and make this one short. First video I tried to keep short too, but ended up being a 30-minute long video. It's currently 9 o'clock at night on Mother's Day, Sunday. Had a good day on Mother's Day. This is gonna be my first actual video, though, of the channel. I spoke about it in the intro video. I'm going to talk about my first time going to rehab. Okay. This is a story that I find entertaining. This is a story that will either teach you something or it'll teach you nothing. And you're just going to either think I'm stupid or that it's funny. Either way, however people interpret it doesn't matter to me, you know. But like I said, videos, I'm going to come out of one video every day. Just basic stuff. Maybe I'll want to make a video of me telling a story. Maybe I'll want to make a video of me telling the time I broke a law, the time I realized I was a drug addict, the time I told my mom I was a drug addict, my first girlfriend I moved in with when I was doing drugs, the first time I got in a car accident, the first time I tried dealing drugs. There's lots of stories to tell. Lots of stories. They're interesting. I use the word interesting, and that's the only word I will use. I will not use the word entertaining because, I mean, it's not really that fun to admit that other people find your misery entertaining. You know what I mean? But it's interesting, and maybe someone can learn from it. Maybe someone can relate to me. You know? That would be cool. Name's Angelo. Sunday on Mother's Day, 9 o'clock at night. And I'm going to tell you the story of when I was 17. Or was I 16? I always forget this. I honestly do. I think I was 17. I just turned 17. And that's what this whole problem was. Okay, that's why this is funny. This story's funny. The first time I went to rehab. There's a lot of stuff I should probably tell you before that, because there was about 2 years of heroin addiction before I actually went to rehab. Maybe not 2 years, maybe a year and a half of actual addiction of doing drugs every single day. You know, from the age of pretty much all of 17. 16 going into 17 was drugs every day. Intravenous snorting. Long story short, because this is a story about the first time in rehab. This isn't, you know, the first time I went to rehab was also the first time I told my mom I was doing drugs, though. So, we'll talk about that story at a different time, though. It's an interesting story, too. How my mom reacted. So, long story short, I was a patient at Arms Acres. I don't know if you've ever been there before. It is a rehab facility in upstate New York. Actually, they might be in Connecticut, actually. It might not be in New York. Or Pennsylvania, maybe. Don't remember. They're called Arms Acres, though. You can look it up. I don't know if it's public knowledge, if they know that I was there. But I've been there 2 times, actually. Once, the first time, and the third time I went to rehab, I went there. I've overdosed 3 times. I've been to rehab 3 times. So, I went to Arms Acres twice, and a different rehab a second time. First time I went in, I was 17. So for those of you who understand how the system works, when you go into rehab, there are 2 ways you go in. Generally, you go in by your free will, meaning you put yourself in there, your insurance covers you, or you pay out of pocket, and you put yourself in rehab, and you do your time. However long your insurance will cover, however much money you want to take out of your pocket, or until they kick you out, pretty much. Second way is prison time. Pretty much, you go to rehab if you're not wanting to go to jail. You know what I mean? You get caught with a little bit of weed on you. You get caught trying to sell a couple Xanax on the side of the road. All you got to do is tell a cop you're an addict. And instead of doing it 6 months in jail, you do 90 days in rehab. Rehabs are always filled with criminals. They're not actually filled with addicts. Okay? It's a very misunderstood thing. Addicts don't have good insurance. Okay? Addicts don't have $380 a night to spend on a rehab. But I was that white kid that good insurance. You know what I mean? I was that kid that my mom had a good job, and, you know, I had good insurance. So when I told my mom at 17 that I was a heroin addict, the next day, I had to go to rehab. I did not want to go to rehab. At the time, I was 17. I was doing heroin for a year, pretty much, every single day, intravenous. And very important fact, I was living with my first ever girlfriend. I was the type of kid that never really had a girlfriend, you know what I mean? I didn't really want to be strapped up. And then I met this girl that I thought was the perfect thing. I thought she was everything. She was everything to me at the time. I was 17, you know, I thought she was perfect. And she was, you know, for a little bit. And then we started doing drugs and everything changed. And I'll tell those stories too. So what's going to be cool about this whole journey is even if nobody watches these, 10 years from now, I'll have these videos on this channel to look back on. You know, my kid ever gets into drugs, he can watch these videos and say, my dad went through this, you know what I mean? Or maybe someone else's kid will watch these and say, this guy went through this, so I could do it too. I'll stop getting off topic though, I'm sorry. But like I said, I was 17, I had gotten in there, and like I said, there's 2 different ways you really get into rehab, through jail or by yourself. You know what I mean? Like doing a criminal act or putting yourself in there. And I was that kid, I was the only motherfucker in there that was in there because my mom had put me in there. Meaning, I was not 18 years old, I was not a legal adult. I could not sign myself into a rehab. Therefore, my mom had to sign me into the rehab. Therefore, me forfeiting over my rights, pretty much. Meaning, I could not step foot out of that rehab, even though criminally I did nothing wrong. I was a free human. I could have done whatever I wanted because I was there by my own free will. But because I was under the age of 18, I could not sign myself out. So when I walked into that rehab at 17, not really wanting to get sober, you know what I mean? I had to go to rehab the next day after. I just told my mom I was a drug addict. I didn't know she was going to make me go to rehab the next day, you know, so I didn't want to go at all. Like I said, I was living with this girl that I thought was perfect, and even though we were both doing drugs and it was a terrible relationship and everything was so toxic, I still did not want to be away from her. I was afraid she was going to cheat on me. I was afraid she wasn't going to get drugs, so she was going to try and find them in certain ways that, you know, I was scared. My anxiety was bad. I did not want to get sober. And that's what happened is I didn't get sober. I was there for 24 hours. And what happened was I cried and was sick for 24 hours. Okay? They gave me a little strip of Suboxone and it made me stop being sick, but I never stopped crying. And I sat there thinking the worst that whole day. I didn't eat breakfast, I didn't eat lunch, I didn't eat dinner. The next day they wake me up for breakfast. 17-year-old kid, white boy, okay? Oh, sorry about that. But I'm a white boy in a rehab with a bunch of people that are there for criminal stuff. You know what I mean? And they're all Hispanic, black, you know what I mean? There's some women in there that are meth heads and stuff, and, you know, yeah, alcoholics, you know what I mean? But I'm pretty much the only kid under the age of 30 that's there for an opiate, you know what I mean, for there because I have an actual problem, you know what I mean. A lot of people go to rehab and don't have problems, you know what I mean. You'd be surprised. We'll talk about that too. Rehab relationships. I had a rehab relationship both times I went in. It's funny stuff, man. It's stupid though, you know what I mean? It's like, it's stupid when you look at it now, but back then it was something to do, you know what I mean? It was interesting. When you're in rehab for months, you need something to do. But this is about the first time. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. It's just so much in my head, you know what I mean? Once I get a couple videos out there with a bunch of different stories, everything will kind of fall into place. But I've been writing some stuff down so that I'm as spot on with all my facts as possible, because I don't want, you know, everything I say will have a person in it. And there's a person out there that I'm talking about is a real person. So they'll be able to watch this video out there and be like, you know, he's telling the truth, or he's lying. You know what I mean? So I want to make sure I'm as accurate as possible with all my stories. Because it's hard to remember sometimes things you did 5 years ago when you were a heroin addict. It's hard to remember those days, you know? All you remember is the bad stuff until you start thinking. But what happened was I was there for 24 hours. I did not want to be there, but I could not get myself out. I was crying. The next day, they made me get out of bed to eat. You are not allowed to stay in your room. You have to get out of your room. So I get out of my room. I'm sitting by myself. I have a tray of food in front of me, and I'm not eating it. Pretty sacrilegious, you'd say, for anybody that's been to jail or been to rehab. If you don't eat your food and you throw that tray out, when you go back for lunch, your tray's probably going to be gone. You know what I mean? People cherish fucking food. They cherish it, man. It's gold. Long story short, I was sitting there not eating my food, and this gentleman, didn't get his name, don't remember if I got his name, if I did, probably in his late 50s, mid 60s, older, definitely had crack issues or heroin issues, had no teeth. Funny guy, though. Looks at me and says, "Hey, little man." Shit you not, with a little southern accent, says, "Hey, little man, what's your problem?" And I said, "Man, I gotta get the fuck out of here." And he was like, "Why can't you get out of here?" He's like, "You're court mandated?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Then why can't..." He was like, "You put yourself in here?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Why can't you get out?" And I said, "'Cause I'm not 18. My mom signed me in. I can't sign myself out. My mom had to come and sign me out. And of course she wasn't going to, just because I wanted to come home. You know, I wanted to do drugs and be with my girlfriend. You know what I mean? She wasn't going to come. So he told me that I could get out. There was a way. Because I wasn't court mandated. There was a way to do it if I had a set of balls. He said, "If you really want to get out of here, give me that food tray. And I'll tell you how to get out of here." And because I did not eat that fucking food tray, I probably should have just never talked to that guy. I probably would have stayed there for a couple months and got sober. My life would be completely different today. But that's why this story is funny. It's because of the way it happened. Because this little white kid went into this fucking rehab, and this black dude told him what to do, and he did it. He told me that because I wasn't court mandated, I could create a scene, okay? Meaning start cursing at people, threaten to harm people. I'm not going to lie. He told me that if I started saying racial slurs, they would have to kick me out. Meaning, because I wasn't court mandated, because I was there on my own will, my insurance was paying for me to be there, they were not going to put up with a 17-year-old kid getting in fights with people, pretty much. So what he told me to do is, as soon as I went back to my room, to destroy the room. He said to destroy it. Start freaking out. And that is what I did. I was in rehab for 24 hours. I had a very, very traditional African caseworker. He was a very nice gentleman. I wish I could apologize now, looking back at it, now that I'm 22 years old. But when I was 17, I had destroyed the room. I ripped the beds apart. I had 2 other roommates in there. I told them what I was going to do. I told them they had to get out. They got out of the room. They grabbed some of their stuff. I started destroying the air conditioners and the beds and all the belongings and all the books and stuff. I was going crazy. The caseworker came in the room with 2 bodyguards. They did not touch me at first. They came in the room and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I want to get out of here." I said, "I don't want to be here." I didn't say it calmly, though. I said it like, "Motherfucker, I want to get the fuck out of here. Fuck all you guys. Fuck this, fuck that." You know, saying racial slurs and just doing everything possible to piss this guy off so that he says, "Fuck you," pretty much. And it worked. It fucking worked. I sat there, I destroyed some stuff. My insurance had to pay a bunch of money because I destroyed a bunch of stuff. And it was
it was just this big thing. My mom had to come, and they told me, and they were like, your mom's going to be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow to pick you up. And that was it. I stopped right there, and that was it. And that is the story of Angela's first time in rehab. Stupid, right? Just stupid shit. Looking back at it now, it's like, I think it's a funny story because the way it happened with the individual during the cafeteria was just funny to me. Because it's like, I was just so upset and angry, and like, he saw that I was so pissed off, and like, when he heard that I was there by my own choice, he was like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, he was like, motherfucker, all you gotta do is start cursing and breaking shit. And that's what I did, and I got out. And what did I do? That as soon as I got out, my fucking mom drove me to my girlfriend's house, and she had heroin waiting for me. And I got high. I got sick, though, because I still had Suboxone in my system a little bit, but, yeah. So that's the story. We're going to try and keep these stories under 20 minutes. So this is a 16-minute video. I'm going to cut it off right here. I'm going to upload this one today, so it's going to be 2 videos in one day, but tomorrow I'll upload a different video. Probably something a little more lighter-hearted. Tell you the stories of maybe my friends, my childhood, some of my childhood. I had a pretty good childhood because of certain people. I'm not going to use names like I said. But there's definitely some people that need to be in some stories that I tell. Because like I said, everything in my life happened for a reason. Everybody that was in my life was there for a reason. Everybody that I stopped talking to for a reason. But there's still people to this day, I mean, that I think, personally, I have 2 friends. I had 2 friends. I had like 3 or 4 friends, maybe 5 friends that like I considered like, you know, I would throw down for, you know what I mean? But like I only had like 2 friends that like I'd take a bullet for, you know what I mean? And that was my one friend Tyler, who was everything to me. Him and his family meant everything to me. I would have died for that kid. I still would to this day, because like I said, if it wasn't for him and my other friend Alec, who I met through Tyler, but Alec and Tyler were everything to me, and they still are to this day. I haven't seen them in probably 3 years, but it's one of those things where we were so close and we had gone through so much together that it's like, I know that if I were to go to New York and knock on his door, it'd be like, you know, a little bit has changed, obviously, you know, but I'm still pretty much the same guy. I'm just a lot more calm now. I'm not as like high strung, and I'm sure he's still the same guy. I'm sure they all are. So tomorrow we'll tell some stories of stuff when I used to do when we were kids, man. All the fun activities we used to do before the drugs. We'll start talking about before the drugs. But if anyone's watching this, hope you have a great night. Hope your mother had a great day today. If any moms are watching this, happy Mother's Day. And I'll see you tomorrow.